1. What is the role of a welding inspector? A welding inspector is responsible for ensuring that welded structures and components meet quality and safety standards as per industry codes, standards, and regulations. 2. What qualifications do I need to become a welding inspector? To become a welding inspector, you typically need to have a high school diploma or equivalent, and complete a welding inspector certification program such as the American Welding Society's Certified Welding Inspector, CWI, program. 3. What are the different types of welding inspection methods? The different types of welding inspection methods include visual inspection, radiographic testing, ultrasonic testing, magnetic particle testing, and liquid penetrant testing. 4. What are some common welding defects that a welding inspector might look for? Some common welding defects that a welding inspector might look for include porosity, cracking, undercutting, lack of fusion, and incomplete penetration. 5. What are some common welding codes and standards that a welding inspector must be familiar with? A welding inspector must be familiar with codes and standards such as the American Welding Society, AWS, D1.1 Structural Welding Code, the ASME Boiler and Pressure Vessel Code, and the API 1104 Welding of Pipelines and Related Facilities. 6. What is the difference between destructive and non-destructive testing in welding inspection? Destructive testing involves physically destroying the welded test piece to examine the quality of the weld, while non-destructive testing methods allow for the inspection of the weld without damaging the test piece. 7. What are the benefits of using non-destructive testing methods in welding inspection? Non-destructive testing methods allow for the inspection of the weld without damaging the test piece, which can save time and money, and allow for the inspection of critical components that cannot be destroyed. 8. What are some safety precautions that a welding inspector must take while on the job? A welding inspector must wear appropriate personal protective equipment, PPE, such as safety glasses, gloves, and a welding helmet. They must also be aware of potential hazards such as electric shock, burns, and fumes. 9. What is the role of documentation in welding inspection? Documentation is essential in welding inspection to ensure that all aspects of the inspection process are recorded and to provide a record of compliance with industry standards and regulations. 10. What is the difference between welding and brazing? Welding is the process of joining two pieces of metal together by melting them and fusing them together, while brazing involves joining two pieces of metal using a filler material that is melted and distributed between the two pieces. 11. What is the role of preheating in welding? Preheating is the process of heating the base metal before welding to improve weld quality and prevent cracking. 12. What is the difference between MIG and TIG welding? MIG welding uses a consumable wire electrode and a shielding gas to join two pieces of metal, while TIG welding uses a non-consumable tungsten electrode and a separate filler material. 13. What are some common causes of welding defects? Some common causes of welding defects include improper welding technique, inadequate preparation of the base metal, incorrect welding parameters, and insufficient cleaning of the weld area. 14. What is the role of post-weld heat treatment in welding? Post-weld heat treatment is the process of heating the welded component to a specific temperature and holding it for a specified time to reduce residual stresses and improve the mechanical properties of the weld. 15. What is the difference between a visual inspection and a non-destructive testing method? A visual inspection involves examining the weld with the naked eye or using a magnifying lens to detect defects, while non-destructive testing methods use equipment such as X-rays, ultrasonic testing, or magnetic particle testing to examine the weld. 16. What is the role of a welding procedure specification, WPS, in welding inspection? A WPS outlines the specific welding parameters and procedures to be used for a particular welding project, and it serves as a guideline for the welding inspector to ensure that the welding process is done correctly. 17. What is the difference between a macroetch test and a microetch test? A macroetch test involves examining the weld with the naked eye or a magnifying glass to detect defects, while a microetch test involves using a microscope to examine the structure of the weld to detect any defects. 18. What is the role of a radiographic film interpreter in welding inspection? A radiographic film interpreter is responsible for examining radiographic film images of welds to detect any defects or anomalies, and they must have a thorough understanding of radiographic principles and techniques. 19. What is the role of a welding inspector in quality control? A welding inspector plays a crucial role in quality control by ensuring that welding procedures are followed correctly, monitoring weld quality, and identifying and addressing any defects or issues that may arise during the welding process. 20. What are some common challenges faced by welding inspectors? Some common challenges faced by welding inspectors include working in hazardous environments, interpreting complex welding codes and standards, dealing with non-compliant welders or contractors, and managing large volumes of inspection data and documentation.